Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got a new Cardfight Vanguard episode review for you guys. So, we have what I believe is the penultimate episode of the season. And a lot happened. A lot went down in this episode. They actually crammed a whole lot into this one. We got, two turns, well, a turn and a half for Reika versus Kuon. We got some results for some other matches, seeing who advanced and whatnot. And then we got the start. Spoiler alert, it's only the start. We don't get to see who wins yet, of Akina versus Kagetsu. They do this with every, end of the season game where they start it off and then they finish it off in the season finale. So we're going to talk about everything that happened in this episode and then we'll, be ready for next week. So if you guys enjoyed this kind of video, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's jump in and let's talk about it. So this is Season 3, Episode 12, Trial of the Moon Once More. So the episode starts off with Kagetsu sitting alone, mentally preparing for his matchup. And our boy has some flashbacks about Ruka and her asking him what his reason is for playing Vanguard. And then it cuts over to him and his flashback of himself asking Akina. So, this whole season led up to this. He ends up leaving, and on leaving his waiting room, he runs into Akina. And in the hallway, Kagetsu points out that Akina seems different, that he has found his reason for playing, and Akina says, yep, and he will show him during their fight. So that's cool. Another fun fact. So obviously, right after this, we cut into the opening, and I saw people talking about this online, and I actually saw it myself. Suzune, her character model has changed a little bit in the opening, where she's actually smiling. After everything she went through in the last episode, it's nice to see that they, stuck with that change. But we jump into our first fight. Well, not really our first fight, but we jump into the fight and it's Kuon versus Reika. Unfortunately, we come in super late into the fight. It looks like it is Reika's turn 4, so it looks like the 7th turn of the game. And he already attacked with one rear guard, and then he rode into, he revolve dressed into youth break revolve form exist. And he had to reset his rear guard, he's going back for the rest of his attacks. So this is the one, like I said, mid turn 7. Reika ends up attacking with exist. Kuon doesn't guard. So this is how we kind of figure out where Reika is at as far as, his turns. His Vanguard has a critical, which it gains if you have a copy of exist bound, which would only happen if he had revolve dressed the turn before and it had been bound. But Kuon doesn't guard. Reika gets a front trigger because he only gets one drive check. So he gives the front row plus 10k. Kuon takes 2 damage. Then we get to see Kuon's damage. He now goes to 5. Reika attacks one of his Dad Logics. Kuon guards with the perfect guard. Reika attacks with his other Dad Logic, but this one's on top of an Infinity Eyes marker. So Kuon uses the Infinity Eyes marker. Well, Levi-Joss' skill with the Infinity Eyes marker. For anybody that hasn't seen Levi-Joss in a while, just a quick refresher. When any player's unit on a rearguard circle with your Infinity Eyes marker attacks or boosts, you may have that unit get plus 10,000 power or minus 10,000 power until the end of that battle. If your opponent's unit gets minus 10,000 power, remove one of your Infinity Eyes markers from that rearguard circle and you may draw a card. So he reduces the power by 10k, draws an extra card. We see that he had 2 shields and a grade 3 in hand, and he draws into a critical trigger to have just enough to guard Dad Logic's attack, which was pretty cool, But Reika uses exist and rebuilds skills. Auto Vanguard at the end of your turn. Choose one of your revolve dress abilities from Soul and ride it as rest. So he rides back into rebuild and then rebuild skill continuous. When this unit would ride on a grade 3 with revolve form in its card name, bind that unit that was rode upon instead of putting it into the Soul. But the turn ends and we get to see the damage. Reika has 4 damage where Kuon has 5. And this is their final turn. Like I said, I'm assuming this is turn 8. But we actually get to see one of my favorite ride animations in the entirety of Cardfight Vanguard, and it's Kuon riding into Destined King of Infinity Levi-Joss Imperio. But this is actually him doing a Persona ride. Immediately, Kuon uses Levi-Joss' skill, and honestly, it's nice to see Levi-Joss in the anime again. Act Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost a Counterblast 1, or put a card from your hand into the Soul. Choose 2 of any player's rearguard circles and put an Infinity Eyes marker on them. If you put a grade 3 or greater card with Levi-Joss in its card name for this cost, you get to choose 3 rearguard circles instead of 2. And we get to see that he puts 2 down. He then calls Acquired Pantherad and Knight of Silent Illusion Clarence. Kuon attacks with Levi-Joss Imperio and uses Foxel's skill on boost. Auto when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with leverage in its card name. If your opponent's rear guard has your Infinity Eyes marker on it, this unit gets plus 2,000 power until the end of that battle. And Counterblast 1, choose one of your back row rear guards, and until end of that turn, that unit can attack from the back row and gets 10,000 power. So he gives the 10,000 power to Murky Barbolator, and now it has the ability to attack from the back row. Riker guards the Vanguard with a perfect guard. Kuon doesn't get any triggers on his twin drive, but then Kuon attacks with Barbolator. Riker doesn't guard. And though Riker doesn't guard, he was banking on a damage trigger, which he did not get. Kuon then attacks with a Metagasta from the back row. Riker doesn't guard, takes 1 damage, and the game is over. Damage is 6-5, and Kuon finally got a win. They were mistreating my boy Kuon this whole season. He just lost to everybody. But we get a little bit peek into Riker's head. Riker's just like, you know, when you do well, people are going to study you, but you have to be able to produce results regardless. And he points out that this is the kind of thing that Michiru goes up against all the time. And he's just like, I still have a lot to learn. But him and Kuon bow to each other. We see Kuon leaving, and he gets stopped by Suo. Suo tells him that was a great fight. And Kuon's like, you know what? I'm going to get stronger. So I'll be stronger by the next time we fight. And Suo's like, me too. But then we see Suo, big smile. He's like, you know what? Let's just go fight now. Because he loves playing against people that are strong, and he loves playing with his friends. Next, we jump over to Erika prepping for her fight, because Erika's next fight is versus Gui. And this one bothers me because this one is done, spoiler alert, completely off screen, and we don't get any of it. But we jump straight to their final turn, and we see that Erika is struggling against Gui. We see Kiyoma and Taizo watching, saying it's still anyone's game, and we see Erika actually go to activate her divine skill, though we don't know the state of the card game. And then for whatever reason, it cuts to Kagetsu drinking in a hallway, and then when it cuts back to Erika and Gui, the game's over and Erika just won. I didn't understand it, but it is what it is. We get to see the results of this block with Gui and Erika in it, and it turns out the only one that was undefeated was Mirai, our glorious queen, whereas now Erika and Gui are all tied with 1 win apiece. So whoever's going to advance between them is going to depend on lottery, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Senka talks to Now. She's like, you know, you're stressing about making it. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna go win, and I'm gonna exceed you right now. And yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So now we go over to Senka's fight, and Senka is in the next block is fighting Megumi. As their fight starts, again, this is another one we don't get to see. It cuts over to Michiru and Danji, and they actually show up at the venue, which is pretty cool. You know, they just came back from America, and then when we cut back over, the fight's over, and Megumi won. We do get a cool line from Senka. She's like, you know, now I have another goal to exceed, and that the next time they fight, she's going to break Megumi's fangs, which I thought was a hard-ass line. But we get another clip seeing who's advanced so far. Obviously, Group A, we know Mirai has passed with her 3 wins, and then the second person is going to be by lottery. We see that Suo and Megumi have advanced, and then Group C, Kagetsu's guaranteed to advance, and the next one's going to depend on if Akina beats Kagetsu. We jump over to Akina, and Now shows up, you know, just to check out how he's doing, and he seems like he's ready for the match. She gives him a pat on the back, wishes him good luck, and Akina heads off to his match. Now, the way it's working now, if Akina wins this, he gets to advance to the finals. If he loses, I believe it's a tie between him and Raika, and it might come down to lottery with those two. So, interesting turn of events. But we got Akina's friends ready to cheer him on, and we see Michiru and Danji watching the fight. Michiru's like, you know, getting to see Kagetsu fight again, it takes me back. But then he looks over to Akina, and he's just like, the boy who can, you know, can call miracles. Like, he's interested, he's really interested in this fight. But we get into the fight, and of course, we gotta start it off. As always, for anybody who checks out my episode reviews, or who's never checked one out before, as we talk about what happened during the fight, I'm not gonna go over their draws for turn, because literally the only time they do it is the first turn. Or their energy charge 3, just assume that they happened. There's going to be some effects that they might not announce, and I might miss them, but in most cases, they did actually happen. Like, sometimes if you check the board state, you'll see what changed. But, let us begin. So, we got our starters. Kagetsu has Envoy of the Moon Rep Soul, and Akina has Wings of Apparition Soul, the same stars they've had the whole time. Turn 1, Kagetsu rides. Follower of the Moon Fresnel and uses its skill. Auto when this unit is placed by riding from Envoy of the Moon Rep Soul, reveal a grade 3 with Veissrugr and its card name from your ride deck. Search your deck or hand for up to 1 Moon Gate, put it into your order zone, and if you search your deck, shuffle your deck. If you put a card from hand, draw a card. Kagetsu sets the Moon Gate with its skill, and the turn is over. Turn 2, Akina rides Patrol of Gus Ventesta. Akina calls Brilliant Dragon Bradyark and uses its skill. Auto when this unit is placed on rearguard. If your Vanguard's grade is less than or equal to your opponent's Vanguard's grade, look at the top card of your deck and put it to the top of the bottom of your deck. And this unit gets 2,000 power until end of turn. Akina looks at the top card of the deck, puts it on the bottom of the deck. Akina attacks with Ventesta, Kagetsu doesn't guard. Akina gets a draw trigger and gives 10k power to Bradyark and draws a card. Kagetsu takes 1 damage, he also gets a draw trigger, and he gives 10k to his Vanguard. Akina attacks with Bradyark, Kagetsu guards, turn is over. The damage is now 1-0 with Akina in the lead. Turn 3. Kagetsu rides Vassal of the Moon Ramsden and uses its skill. Real quick, I just want to point out there's not a whole lot of, between turn talk. They keep the dialogue really, really short to pump out as much of the game as possible. This happens sometimes especially when it's near the end of the game, because the second half of the episode is just the game. But auto when this unit is placed by routing from Follower of the Moon Fresno. The top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 unit cards with mythics in their card name. I'm going to say mythics. From among them, reveal them. Choose up to 1 card from among the revealed cards, put it into your hand, put the rest of the revealed cards into your order zone, and shuffle the deck. Kagetsu adds Crowing Mythics Ragnarok to hand and puts the second Mythics Midgard Soma Garzorums, such a long ass name, he puts that one into the order zone. Kagetsu calls Ragnarok from hand. I thought this was weird because normally he would use the Moongate, call a dude, and then also call from hand just to be able to get 3 attacks. He doesn't use the Moongate this turn, which is a little weird, but it is what it is. Kagetsu attacks at Ramsden, Akina guards, Kagetsu doesn't get a trigger. Kagetsu attacks at Ragnarok, Akina guards again. Turn ends, the damage is 1-0, Akina is still in the lead. Turn 4, Akina rides Knight of Great Advance Ascensior. Akina uses Ventesta's skill. Auto when this unit is rode upon by Knight of Great Advance Ascensior, call this card to rearguard and soul charge 1. With this skill, Akina calls Ventesta and soul charges. Akina moves Bradyark back and calls 2 copies of Knight of Gentle Beauty Nobia to his front row. Akina is burning up a lot of cards, but he's trying to be as aggressive as possible. Akina attacks with Nobia, Kagetsu doesn't guard, takes 1 damage. Akina attacks with Ascensior, Kagetsu guards, Akina gets no triggers. This one makes sense because it's the only one that didn't have a booster. Akina attacks with his second Nobia, Kagetsu doesn't guard again, and it takes 1 damage. The turn is over. The damage is now 3-0 with Akina way in the lead. Now we got turn 5. This is where things start getting complicated. Turn 5, Kagetsu rides Keeper of the Moongate Veissrugr. Kagetsu activates the Moongate. Act Order Zone, Energy Blast 3, rest this card, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card with mythics in its card name and grade less than or equal to your Vanguard. From among them, call it to rearguard and shuffle the deck. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Veissrugr in its card name, instead of choosing 1 card and calling it, choose up to 3 cards from among them, call up to 1 of them, rearguard, and put the rest of the chosen cards into the order zone and shuffle the deck. With this skill, Kagetsu calls the first mythics Wolfzahn Rostinir. Kagetsu uses Veissrugr's skill. Act Vanguard once per turn, Soul Blast 2, choose a Moongate from your order zone, choose up 1 of its original act abilities and activate it without paying the cost. So he gets to do the same thing with the top 7. With this skill this time, he calls a copy of Ragnarok while putting a copy of Ragnarok and Garzorums into the order zone. Lastly, Kagetsu plays the order Elif Gilmani. You play this with a counterblast 1. You choose 1 of your grade 3 or greater Vanguards with Veissrugr in its card name, and it gets continuous. All of your rearguards with mythics in their card name get 5,000 power, and all of your rearguards with mythics in their card name placed by your card's abilities this turn get an additional 5,000 power. There's also another reason he used it, but we'll talk about that in a second. But Kagetsu attacks with Rostinir and uses Rostinir's skill. Auto when this unit is placed on rearguard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Veissrugr in its card name, until the end of turn when this unit would attack, choose 1 of your opponent's front row rearguards and it battles your opponent's Vanguard and all of the units chosen on the rearguard. So he attacks Ascensior and 1 of the Nobias. Akina doesn't guard either one, Akina takes 1 damage. Kagetsu attacks with Veissrugr and uses skill. Auto Vanguard when this unit attacks, counterblast 1, choose up to 2 unit cards with mythics in their card name from your order zone. Call each of them to rearguard in the same column, and all of your front row gets 5,000 power until end of turn. Kagetsu calls another copy of Ragnarok and a copy of Garzorums, and then he uses Garzorum's skill. Auto when the unit is placed on rearguard during your battle phase. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Veissrugr in its card name, counterblast 1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. This card cannot be chosen by your opponent's card effects and can attack from the back row. It has another skill where if you played an order this turn, it gains 15,000 power, which is why he played Elif Gilmani. And because of Elif Gilmani's skill, it actually gains another 10k power. So this thing is going to be 35 from the back row as a 5th attack. Akina guards this attack, but Kagetsu gets a heal trigger, so he recovers 1 and gives another 10,000 power to Garzorum. Kagetsu also gets a critical trigger, giving the critical on the power to the one of the Ravnaraus. Kagetsu attacks with Garzorm. Akina doesn't guard. I mean, it's a 45k attack. I wouldn't guard it either. It takes 1 damage. Akina gets a critical and gives 10k to his Vanguard for the turn. Kagetsu attacks with Ravnarau. Akina guards and intercepts. And then Kagetsu attacks with this other Ravnarau, though that has the critical. Akina doesn't guard and takes 2 damage. So now the damage is flipped 2 to 4 with Kagetsu in the lead. Now, turn 6. And unfortunately, this is the last turn of the episode, but not the last turn of the fight. So turn 6, Akina rides Faded One of Miracles, Rezael. Akina uses a Sensor skill. Auto when this unit is rode upon by a grade 3 with Rezael in its card name. Choose up to 1 grade 2 or less card from your drop. Call it to rear guard. With this skill, Akina calls Nobia back from the drop, and then uses Nobia's skill. Auto when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Rezael in its card name, +1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 3 or less card from among them. Call it to rear guard and put the rest of the bottom of the deck in any order. If it is your battle phase, reveal it and put it into your hand instead of calling it. That actually matters. But with this skill, Akina calls Knight of Perspicacity Catullus, using its skill as well. Auto when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Rezael in its card name, choose one of your units and gets 5,000 power until end of turn. If this unit was placed by your Vanguard's ability, it gets 10,000 instead of 5,000. But Akina calls it behind the Vanguard and then gives the 5k to his Vanguard. Akina calls Knight of Bowstreaks Nobiris from hand, filling up his rear guard circles. Now, Akina takes a minute and really thinks his way through this next move. He thinks about his win against Kuon, saving up on his Divine skill to send more triggers back to deck later. He also thinks about how he lost to Raika, and he's trying to decide what's the best option when it comes to when to use his Divine skill. He looks at his damage, he looks at his drop, he looks at his hand. He has 1 grade 3 in hand. He's already at 4 damage. He doesn't have a whole lot of crits left in his drop zone, he only has 2. But he decides it's too risky to not use it at this point, so he uses his Divine skill, which is Act, Vanguard, Soul Blast 1, return all critical triggers from your drop to the deck and shuffle, and this unit gets +1 drive until end of turn. Until the end of this fight, you cannot ride units without Rezael in the card name, and you get, when your damage check reveals a trigger unit other than a heal trigger, if your damage zone is 5 or more cards, choose a card from your damage zone and heal it, and then you lose this ability. Akina sends back 2 critical triggers and gives Rezael an extra drive. Akina attacks with Nobiris, Kagetsu intercepts, and uses Veissrugr's defensive skill, which is Auto Vanguard when your unit with Mythics in its card name is put into the Guardian Circle. Put a card with Mythics in its card name from your drop to the bottom of your deck, and that unit gets 5,000 shield until end of turn. Akina then activates Nobiris' skill. Auto Rearguard at the end of the battle, this unit attacked. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard or Rezael in its card name, Energy Blast 3, put this unit into the soul. Draw a card, look at the top card of your deck, put it to the top or bottom of your deck. Akina attacks with Rezael and uses its skill. Auto Vanguard with this unit attacks a Vanguard. Counter Blast 1, choose 2 cards from your drop with different grades and a total grade less than or equal to the number of cards in your damage zone, and call them to rear guard. Akina calls Nobia and Knight of Stern Lance Severus from drop. Akina uses Nobia's skill. So remember, Nobia lets you Counter Blast 1, check top 3, call 1, unless it's during your battle phase. Instead, it lets you reveal one of the cards and then add it to hand. So he ends up looking at the top 3, reveals a perfect guard, adds the perfect guard to hand. So that's kind of hot. And then Akina uses Severus' skill, which is auto when this unit is placed on rear guard by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard or Rezael in its card name. Soul Blast 1 and all your front row units get 5,000 power until end of turn. We get a cool little scene here. This is actually straight from the first episode, where it's Rezael fighting Veissrugr, and I thought this was pretty cool that they threw this into the final episode. So that was kind of neat, because we've finally come full circle. Because the whole point of this season was getting to this fight right here. Kagetsu guards the Vanguard with an overtrigger. Akina gets a critical on his drive check and gives a critical to Nobia. And I want to point out the rest of Akina's drive checks here. So Akina drive checks a critical first, but then he also checks Heavenly Bright and a perfect guard. That is some monster defense that he just drew into. For anybody that doesn't remember, Heavenly Bright is the card that lets you guard from the top of your deck, and of course a second perfect guard to go with the one he already has. Akina attacks Nobia with the one that's boosted by Severus. Kagetsu doesn't guard, takes 1 damage, and then after this battle, Akina uses Severus' second skill. Auto rearguard at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If this unit was placed on the rearguard by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard Rezael in its card name this turn, bind this unit and draw a card, so he gets to draw another card. Akina attacks with a second Nobia. This one Kagetsu guards and the turn is over. Now, this is the only time we get some in-fight dialogue. Kagetsu says that he likes to look in Akina's eyes and points out that Akina really did find something. So he says, I'm going to ask you again, why do you play Vanguard? And he tells Akina to show him with his game, show him with his Vanguard, and the episode ends. I was kind of butthurt. I wanted them to keep going. Some of the fights that they blew through, I would have liked to see. Like, I would have liked to see Erica actually get a win. I would have liked to see Kuon versus Raika. I was really hoping we were going to get that fight this episode. It is what it is. Now, last thing I want to point out about the episode is we know basically the entirety of Akina's hand. Akina has 7 cards in hand. He's got Rezael Vita, 2 perfect guards, Heavenly Bright, and a critical trigger. He has 2 cards we don't know. The one he drew off of Severus and the one he drew off of Nobia. That's the only cards in his hand we don't already 100% know. So he's got a lot of defense, so he's probably going to survive Kagetsu's next turn. But a lot of people think he's going to come back and win. He has the Rezael Vita for the Persona ride, and he's probably going to call the new Grade 2 Rift Store to search a copy of Rezael to be able to use the skill. Yeah, it's probably how he's going to win. But let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Let me know if you guys are hyped for the season finale. We all know Akina's going to win. He's the protagonist. And if he doesn't win, that will be interesting because that means they're going to go in a whole different direction. But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links are down below. If you guys want to see me play some Cardfight Vanguard live, come by for the next stream. Next Vanguard stream should be Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I would love to talk to you guys about all this. We have a lot of new decks to try out, and I think it's going to be fun. That's going to be it from me, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.
See it in my eyes, I was born for this. I got demons on my side, you ain't high like this. I got reason to believe, I don't need it from my gifts. Only I can change the world and it go like this.